Hi students, it's Mr. Griffith again. In Module 1 on the Florida Virtual School, you're learning about lines and how artists use lines. In Part B, the Florida Virtual School is talking to you about landscapes, different types of landscapes. And now what I wanted to talk to you about is some different lines that you'll find in your landscapes. And I'm also going to show you how to draw a landscape using perspective. So on the board, I've drawn a simple landscape out in a field. It's got 2 trees, a field, and a dirt road going by. And over here, I've drawn a cityscape. A cityscape is a type of landscape. It just happens to be in a city, just like a seascape would be at the sea. So in this landscape, there's a couple lines I want to talk to you about. The main kind of line that I want to talk to you about is this line that meanders across the page right here. And that line separates the sky from the ground. So above that line is the sky, below that line is the ground, and we call this line the horizon. Horizon. On the cityscape, can you find the horizon? It's a flat line in this one. Now, the horizon is rarely flat. But in this picture, I went ahead and made it straight across. And all it does is separate the sky area from the ground area. If I'm putting something in my picture that's going to be attached to the ground, then the bottom of that object needs to be below the horizon line. Now, in this picture of the landscape, I used a lot of organic lines. Those are lines that you would find in nature. Tree trunks aren't typically perfectly straight. Tree trunks typically have some crookedness to them. They're jagged, different kind of a shape to them. Whereas in the cityscape here, the edge of the building, most architects make the edges of their buildings with straight lines. So in a cityscape, you would find a lot of straight lines. Now in the landscape, this tree represents a vertical line. In the cityscape, I've got a couple trees representing vertical lines, but I also have some vertical lines on the edges of the buildings. In fact, if you're drawing a building, you need to make sure that the side of the building is straight up and down. Don't let it lean over or it'll look very awkward. In this landscape, we can also find some diagonal lines. I did hatching to color in the sky. So instead of coloring in the sky completely, I used a series of lines that go diagonal across the page to fill in the sky. Those hatching lines were diagonal lines. In the cityscape, I used some diagonal lines, and I use those to show perspective. They show that things get farther away in the distance. You'll find diagonal lines in the sidewalk, the top of the hotel here, the tops and the bottoms of the windows and the doors. Those are all diagonal lines. In fact, there's even an implied line. The top of the trees kind of draw a line toward this part here, which is called the vanishing point. You're going to learn about the vanishing point in the next part of the video. In the landscape, there's also another diagonal line, and it's really the road, which is a shape, but it has a linear shape to it. In the cityscape, we find a third kind of line called horizontal lines. Horizontal lines go straight across, and they're parallel with the horizon. Some horizontal lines that you'll find in the cityscape are the cracks in the sidewalk, and also the bottom of this building here where it goes back into the alleyway, and the bottom of the roof line here, and the top of the roof line that goes straight back. So those are some horizontal lines that you'll find. So here's two examples of different ways to do landscapes. Both of these examples use something called perspective. Now, in art class, perspective is the way that you see things, but in art, perspective is a system of drawing to show that something is farther away in a picture than something else. So in real life, these two trees are the same size. But I used perspective to show that this tree is closer than this tree. In fact, you can see that the way that I did it was I made this tree larger and this tree smaller. In fact, if somebody were to run away from you, the farther away they got, the smaller they would appear. Now, they aren't really shrinking. It just looks like they're shrinking. It's kind of like an optical illusion. So the farther away something is, the smaller it appears. This tree's farther away, that's why it looks smaller, even though in real life, those two trees are the same size. The other thing I did was the bottom of the tree of the one that's farther away is higher in the picture. The bottom of the tree of the one that's closer is lower in the picture. That's how I use perspective on that landscape. On the cityscape, I used more of a mathematical perspective. It's called one-point perspective. In fact, the one point that I'm referring to is right here in the center of the horizon line, and that is called the vanishing point. The vanishing point is the point where things in the picture look like they go back to. So let's imagine this road is getting, right here it's pretty close to us. Right here it's farther away. Right here it's really far away. So you'll notice that the farther away the road gets, the smaller it gets. Eventually, it gets so far away that it appears to vanish. That's why we call that the vanishing point. I use the vanishing point not just for the road, not just for the sidewalks, but I use the vanishing point to tell me that the bottom of this building is, you'll notice this line right here. In real life, that's a horizontal line. It's flat to the ground. But from my perspective, it looks like it angles up to the vanishing point. The top of the building angles down to the vanishing point. Now in real life, those two lines are parallel with each other. But since I'm seeing this building at an angle, it looks like they're getting closer to each other. Even though in real life they're not getting closer, it just looks that way. It's the illusion again. In fact, this edge of the building, this corner of the building, is taller than this corner. That's the way it looks. It's not really taller in real life, but it looks taller because this corner of the building is farther away. This corner of the building is closer. That's how I use perspective to show distance in my picture. You'll see that used in the windows. So the tops and the bottoms of the windows go toward that vanishing point. The doors, the tops of the doors go toward that vanishing point. The bottoms of the doors, this sign and the letters, all go toward that vanishing point. The L is smaller than the O because the L is farther away and the O is closer. What I want you. Okay, as you can see, I went ahead and erased the landscape and the cityscape, and I'm going to just quickly show you how I created them. The main thing to remember is that when things are farther away, they look smaller. Okay? They appear smaller when they're farther away. Now, on both of these drawings, I'm going to start with a horizon line. So on the landscape, I'm going to do some rolling hills, not big giant lumps, but just kind of gentle rolling hills. Okay, so just a nice wavy line. Next, I'm going to build a road in this field. So I'm going to choose the spot where the road's coming from, and I think it might come in from this valley right here and go across the page. So way back here, I'm going to start at the horizon. Okay, and have one side of the road kind of curve down toward the corner. And then I'm going to start right next to that line, super close to it. Okay, I'm going to be super close because this is the road, the part of the road that's really far away. So I want it to look small, so it needs to be closer together. And then the road's going to, this other side of the road's going to be farther away from this line as I draw it. So I'm going to have it go along with that line. Okay, and now you can see the road is wide here and narrow here, which makes it look like it's getting farther away. Now this could be a road, or it could be a stream or a river, whatever I turn it into. It's up to me. I'm going to put a tree in right here. So I'm just going to build a standard tree. So put the trunk up here, erase the horizon inside the trunk, have a little root base growing out of the ground, and then I'm going to put a leafy top, but I'm not going to draw each leaf. I'm just going to kind of squiggle. This is how I make my trees. Pretty wild. Okay. Give them some texture. So I use all these wiggly lines to give them texture. And then I'm going to give the trunk a little bit of texture. And I'm going to kind of up and down the lines just like this and add a little shadow. Okay, and make it look like tree bark. Now that tree is close to us. I guess with the size of that tree, that makes this look more like a path than maybe like a bike path, because it's a little smaller than a road, but it'll work. But this tree is up close, so it looks huge. I'm going to put another tree way back here that's way far away. Since it's far away, it has to look small. Just like that. Get a little texture on the trunk, and then make the treetop. Same thing, just smaller. So there's two trees. In real life, they're about the same size. But since this one's so far away, it looks smaller. Pretty simple concept. All right. I'll show you how I colored in the sky. I'm just going to use a black marker to do it. But hatching is a really easy way to color in a sky that makes it look a little bit more interesting than just coloring it blue, okay? Than coloring it with a crayon and filling it in. Hatching is more of a design element that you can use. And I'm just going to make these vertical lines. They're all pretty parallel with each other. Or not vertical, they're diagonal lines. They're all parallel with each other. And I don't want it to go through the tree. I want it to go behind the tree. Just like this. And there, I filled in the sky area with those lines. Adds a little bit more interest to the sky. Now, if I did those lines with a little bit lighter color, it wouldn't be as intense. Okay, on a cityscape, I'm actually going to use a ruler. Well, I'm going to use part of a meter stick, but you're going to use a ruler. And I'm going to use a straight line across. So that goes straight across. Now, both of these are horizon lines. This one is hills, and this one's more of flat land. For my cityscape, I'm going to be a little bit more technical with making things look farther away, making it look realistic. On the middle of that line, I'm going to put this dot. That's called the vanishing point. And then I'm going to use my ruler and draw a straight line out like that, and another one right next to it, and another one right next to that for a curve. Make it look look like it drops down. So there's one sidewalk. Then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to start here, down here like that. Try to make this one about the same width. Everything is going to that exact same vanishing point. All of these lines are converging at that vanishing point. Now the technical name for these lines that go toward a vanishing point is orthogonal lines, but just understand that they go toward the vanishing point, and now it makes it look like the road is getting so far away that it vanishes. So now I've got a couple sidewalks and a road, and I'm going to go ahead and put in the cracks in the sidewalk. Okay, and I'll just put a few in. I'm not going to get super technical with this right now because I want to go somewhat fast to kind of show you. I won't even use a ruler for the rest. But those all go straight across. They're horizontal lines because they're parallel to the horizon. Parallel to the horizon. Next, I'm going to build a building right here. To build a building, I'm going to make the far corner of the building first. It's a vertical line straight up and down. So I start above the horizon and finish below the horizon. Okay. Then, for the bottom of the building, it's going to go toward the vanishing point. So I line up that line with the vanishing point, the bottom of that line with the vanishing point, and I'm going to draw it toward the edge of the paper just like that. And then the same thing at the top. I'm going to go from the top of that line to the vanishing point and line those up with my ruler, and I'm going to draw a line out toward the edge of the paper, just like that. And then this is the far corner of the building. For the near corner of the building, I'm going to make another vertical line. Okay, just like that. Now, this is the side of the building that's facing the street. You can't see through the building, so hopefully you drew lightly so you can erase that line, so that way you don't see the horizon through the building. Next, that's the wall facing the street. I'm going to have a wall on this side because the building is made of many walls, 4 walls. So there's going to be a wall on this side, so I'm going to erase the horizon line here. And at the bottom corner of this building, I'm going to go straight across to the edge of the paper. And at the bottom, or the top corner up here, I'm going to go straight across to the edge of the paper. Now I've got this really plain building beside this road. Who knows what building this is? It could be a candy shop, it could be a pet shop, or it could be somebody's house, a restaurant, whatever you want it to be. Your imagination will drive your drawing. Now, if I want the building to look really big, then I can make a little tiny door. If I want the building to look small, I can make a huge door. Then the building will look small. I'm going to just make an average door. The sides of the door, straight up and down, just like that. The top of the door goes toward the vanishing point, just like that. And then the other side of the door, straight up and down. Okay? I could put whatever details I want on that door. I could put windows, a sign, whatever I want on this building to make it mine. All right. I could hatch the sky if I wanted, add some landscaping, add some people. I could add some aliens invading the town. Whatever I want, because this one is mine. So, what I want you to do in your sketchbook, I want you to either draw a landscape or a cityscape using a pencil. Draw lightly at first, just in case you make a mistake, it'll be easier to erase. Draw your landscape or your cityscape, and I want you to make sure that in your picture it shows me an element where something looks like it's farther away. Now, one of the things I want you to have either a road or a river or railroad tracks or something in there that continues to get smaller as it gets farther away. I've done it here with this path and with this road. Okay, you can choose what you want. I also would like some other details that show that something is getting farther away. So on this landscape, I did my two trees. This one's close up, this one's farther away. I showed that by using size. On my cityscape, I used 1-point perspective to show you that my building here is closer to me and this one's farther away. So this corner looks shorter because it's farther away. I'm going to include a website, okay, a link to a website at the bottom of this assignment. For those of you that are ambitious and want to learn more about 1-point perspective, it is a really good website that'll run you through this, and you can work through this in your sketchbook. So, you're going to be finishing your sketchbook assignment, and you're going to turn it in on Flipgrid as always. I look forward to seeing what you do. Be creative. Be awesome. I'll see you later.